Long before the name Dracula stirred imaginations across Europe, deep in the Carpathian Mountains, there was a story whispered only in the hush of twilight. A tale not of vampires, as the world would come to know them, but of something older, something restless. It was said that the dead did not always rest. In the remote villages tucked between the shadowed ridges, they spoke of the Strigoi, spirits of the departed who returned, not to drain blood, but to linger, to haunt the living in subtle, enigmatic ways. But this was only the beginning. The mountains themselves seemed alive, a silent witness to centuries of human endeavor and fear. Fog rolled down the slopes like veils, shrouding homes in an ethereal hush. Here, in this rugged landscape, survival was never certain. And it was precisely this uncertainty, this delicate balance between life and death, that gave rise to the Strigoi. The villagers believed that certain souls were too restless, too burdened by regret, to leave the world behind. The Strigoi were born not merely of superstition, but of necessity, a cultural way of understanding misfortune, sudden illness, and loss. Yet few know what happened next. It is said that a child might be marked from birth, an invisible thread tethering them to the realm of the restless dead. Some bore a subtle curse, a shadow upon their soul, whispered to bring hardship or misfortune to those around them. Others became known as living Strigoi, humans who, through jealousy or malice, seemed to sap the vitality of their neighbors. And all the while, the mountains watched, silent and unyielding. The deeper records hold a stranger truth. The origins of this legend stretch far beyond the Christianization of the region. The Dacian, ancient inhabitants of these lands, held beliefs that the soul could linger, that the boundary between life and death was permeable. Offerings were left at graves, rituals performed to ensure that spirits did not return to unsettle the living. In some villages, elders spoke of protective charms, of silver threads woven into clothing, and of rituals repeated at precise hours of the night. And yet, as these customs evolved, so too did the fear, subtle at first, then undeniable, like the creeping chill of dawn across a sleeping village. But the strangest part is still ahead. The daily lives of these villagers were intimately entwined with the myths they believed in. Every illness, every misfortune could carry the shadow of a restless spirit. Families took precautions. Stakes at grave sites, salt sprinkled across thresholds, garlic hung in windows. Each action was a dialogue with the unseen, a pact to protect life from the ambiguity of death. Yet few considered these measures mere superstition. In the eyes of the villagers, they were pragmatic defenses woven into the fabric of survival. If legends like this speak to you, consider joining MythicTales by subscribing. Festivals and communal rites bore the imprint of this belief. On certain nights, fires blazed in village squares, not simply to celebrate the turning of the seasons, but to honor those who had passed, to ensure that no soul wandered in anger. Storytellers recounted accounts of neighbors who vanished or returned changed, and through these narratives, the community encoded lessons, warnings, and memories. Every action, every story, reinforced a delicate equilibrium between life and the shadow of the Strigoi. History eventually touched these mountains in ways that would cement the legend. By the 18th century, reports of vampire-like occurrences reached the ears of imperial authorities. Figures such as Petar Blagojević and Arnold Paole were recorded in official documents, accounts of villagers' fears translated into court files, written in the language of law rather than law. While the Strigoi may have begun as metaphor and cultural practice, these historical cases elevated the legend, giving it a tangible weight beyond the misted valleys. And yet, even in the ink of these official accounts, the mystery remained. The deeper records hold a stranger truth. Villagers devised precise methods to ensure that the restless dead would not return. Graves were reopened, stakes driven, prayers murmured over the earth. But these acts were not merely about destruction. They were rituals of closure, of restoring balance. In the act of confronting the Strigoi, communities affirmed the boundaries between life and death, between fear and understanding. They understood instinctively that to deny the story was to invite chaos into their lives. By performing these rituals, they protected both themselves and the memory of those who had passed, honoring uncovering the complex web of belief that shaped their world. Yet few truly grasped the weight of this ancient vigilance. Through the centuries, the Strigoi evolved in the collective imagination. Folk tales traveled, altered by time and retelling, adapting to changing cultures, religions, and landscapes. Where once the Strigoi were intimate shadows of local communities, they became symbols of the unknown and the uncanny. Stories of the undead reached towns far beyond the Carpathians, entering books, songs, and eventually the broader European consciousness. But what remained constant was the essence of the legend, the restless soul, the boundary between life and death, the subtle influence of the past upon the present. If you're still here, you're one of the few who keeps these stories alive. Subscribe for more Lost World. Today, the Strigoi persists not only in folklore, but in cultural memory. Festivals and retellings continue, preserving the cautionary and symbolic lessons of the past. Artists, writers, and historians find inspiration in these tales, exploring the liminal space between history and myth. And in the remote valleys of the Carpathians, some of the oldest villages still whisper the old stories, not as terror, but as a remembrance of human resilience, of the ways communities interpret and navigate the mysteries of existence. The Strigoi teaches us more than fear. It reminds us of continuity, of the dialogue between generations, and of the careful attention our ancestors paid to the unseen rhythms of the world. Legends endure because they serve a purpose, offering insight, guidance, and reflection. And in revisiting them, we step into a shared space of memory and imagination, honoring both the living and the dead. As we close this chapter of Forgotten Worlds, we leave you with the knowledge that some legends are never truly gone. They linger, waiting to be remembered, waiting to teach, waiting to inspire. The Strigoi, the monster the Carpathians tried to forget, yet in forgetting, they preserved a story that continues to echo through time. If this journey moved you, walk with us into the next legend. Subscribe for more myths reborn.